Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. There's no doubt that Nigeria's economic future lies in entrepreneurship. Across the globe, it is now evident that reducing poverty to the barest minimum can only come through entrepreneurship, since the so-called white-collar jobs can only get to a few. Now, China is a good example of where entrepreneurship has worked in the modern economy. Most advanced economies are driven by entrepreneurs who are creating employment. Entrepreneurship has to do with individual ability to deploy talent and into commercial and economic viability. But the role of government cannot be ignored. Government is responsible for creating the conducive environment and the ease of doing business, which will enhance individual effort and productivity. Now, the nature of education also has an important role to play. The focus should be on how to enhance access to loans and create an environment that encourages entrepreneurship. Now, that's our main business tonight, but first, let's get to see this report by Musa Abubakar.
Nigeria is materially endowed and her economy is said to have grown considerably over the years, but that is yet to translate into improved general well-being of the citizens. Research findings shows that more than 50% of Nigeria's population is below the poverty line. While the situation is attributed to corruption and mismanagement of the economy over the years, underutilization of resources in the sectors such as agriculture and solid minerals may be another factor. Government programs to improve the standard of living of the citizens have yielded different levels of success amongst the various strategies to encourage entrepreneurship. The whole idea lies on the understanding that government alone cannot provide jobs for all. Entrepreneurship promotes self-reliance as well as wealth creation in the society. This includes the various skills acquisition and access to microfinance. You win and empower are some of the recent strategies government is deploying. Tertiary institutions in the country also add entrepreneurship education to their list of courses aimed to produce job creators as against job seekers. With dwindling revenue from the oil sector, many are of the opinion that entrepreneurship development is what is required to drive growth in the country.
Everybody has something in him or her, and unless you begin to explore what you have in you, you cannot never really understand what you can achieve. I feel we should, be the dependency on the federal government should be reduced. People need to begin to develop themselves.
We need to try as much as possible to develop our youth. We need to build their confidence. We need to make them know that they have something that the world is looking out for.
President Muhammadu Buhari has since inception, including the 2018 budget, made provisions where young men and women can seize public opportunity to get soft loans that will pave the way for entrepreneurship to take major lead in job creation in the country. All that is needed now is for people to be able to express their God-given talent and creativity to be active participants in the economy of Nigeria.
And that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let me introduce our guests to you on this program. We'd like to welcome to this program Dr. Nasir Ladan Mohammed Argungu, who is Director General, National Directorate of Employment, ND. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you very much.
We're also joined by Dr. Dikko Umaru Radda, who is Director General, Chief Executive Officer of the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDAN. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
And let's also welcome Francis Daniel Ukumagwa, who's MD CEO, iSkill Knowledge Management. He is the president of FMG, which is a free mentorship grooming forum. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, every Tuesday we acquaint you with the process of this program. At the appropriate time, you can get to join in the discussion in the studio. And at that time, for those who will be phoning in, we encourage you to just go straight to the point, turn down the volume of your TV when your call has been passed through to the studio. And the best way to know it is you'll see your name appear on screen. When your name goes on screen, then of course you know that your call has been passed through. So welcome once again to NTA Tuesday Live. Let's talk about poverty reduction and creating employment. Let's begin with you, the Director General of the National Directorate of Employment. What are the statistics showing at this point in time, talking about the level of unemployment?
Good evening, Nigerians. When I was first appointed as the Director General of NDE, that is National Directorate of Employment, the first thing I did was to try as much as I can to find out the level of unemployment in this country. So I rushed to government agencies where I felt I can get the necessary information I'm looking for. I went to NCC, Galaxy Backbone, NIDA, NatComSat, and NIMSI. And luckily for me, I got what I was looking for at NIMSI. And the whole aim is for me to have a robust data of all unemployed Nigerian youth, so that I can look at the magnitude of the problem in order to see how we can come in to reduce it to the lowest bearable level. And honestly, what I got really shocked me, because the figure was high. We were talking of between 15 to 22% in a country of about 160, 170 million. So that is quite high. 22% unemployment rate. That's what I got from NIMSI, and I got it state by state, zone by zone.
How can those figures change, or has there been, what's gone into changing those figures?
You see, honestly, NDE being what it is, you know, we have been in existence for the past 30 years, and we have offices in all the 36 states, 37 including FCT. We have 6 zonal offices. Out of the 774 local governments, we have offices in 691. We have 74 skill centers scattered all over the Federation. We have 54 agri parks. We have so-called school on wheels, that is mobile workshops. We have about 16 of them. So from these statistics, one can believe that as far as issue of creation of jobs, provision of employment, NDE is the heartbeat and the bedrock. So when I came in, I realized that NDE is involved in training about 80 different trades. And I decided to streamline everything based on demand driven, just about 15 of them. And it is based on that we came in to see what we can do in both the various departments that are under NDE. That is Special Public Works. We have Vocational Skill Development. We have REP, that is Rural Employment Program. And we also have SSE, Small Scale Enterprise. So these are the basic departments we have. And based on that, we have various training programs, because principally the mandate given to NDE is training, training, and training, so that we can create jobs and provide employment. And that's what we're doing right now.
All right, we'll come back to you and see just how much impact that has had on the huge job market. But let's go to the Director General of SMEDAN. Yes, it's been said that entrepreneurship is the key to reducing poverty and creating all those jobs that we aspire to now. How positioned is SMEDAN today to perform this role?
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. And then I think SMEDAN, as the name implies, is Small and Medium Development Agency of Nigeria. And the major mandate of the organization is to facilitate the growth of small and medium enterprises in the country. That comes under a lot of the programs that the agency is running on. Essentially, as you are aware, when we say entrepreneurship, what we clearly mean by entrepreneurship is having a vision to fill in the gap that exists in the society. And this gap translates into creating new enterprises, creating wealth, and reducing poverty. You know, our programs are targeted towards creating wealth, creating employment, and also establishing viable and innovative enterprises. This, we have a number of programs that we run in the agency that help in reducing poverty and help to create entrepreneurial skills in the minds of the students, in the minds of the young men and women. We have a program that we call Young Entrepreneurship Program that is targeted at the people who are start-off, people that just want to start a new business, that will provide a workspace for them. We provide the necessary capacity building to enable them run their businesses in a better and a much more prosperous way of economic prosperity. But before we go to that, I think there are a number of issues that need to be addressed because critically, and when we look at it in a better and more, the major thing, if you go to any enterprise, any entrepreneur that you met on the street, he will tell you a number of challenges. And this number of challenges run from finance, run from workspace, lack of access to workspace, infrastructure, that is electricity, water, and the number of things. So these are the main challenges that are confronting entrepreneurs in the country. And for you to develop any economy in any country, you must, because failure of small and medium enterprises is the failure of the economy of any country. So, and if you look at the statistics in Nigeria, you find out that micro, small and medium enterprises employed about 84% of Nigerians. Most of Nigerians are again employed through entrepreneurship. And when you look at it, the major challenge towards that is that we have a statistic as of 2013 of 37 million MSMEs in the country. But unfortunately, out of the 37 million MSMEs, about 99% of them are macro businesses. And when we talk of macro businesses, these are businesses that we define macro businesses in two categories. That is asset-based or labor force, labor aspect. In terms of asset, a person who has a capital base of 1 naira to less than 10 million naira is what we categorize as macro business. And a person who employs only one person to less than 10 people are the people that we categorize. A majority of the small businesses we have in Nigeria fall under this category. And if you look at this category critically, about 95% of that category, they are informal. They don't have the basic things that it requires for somebody to go into business and to make that business a very, very, very viable business. In terms of capacity, in terms of registration of that business, most of them, if you find out, 95% of them lack even a bank account.
Right.
These are people that are just operating business to feed themselves. So we call them an opportunity entrepreneurs because they are just doing it to enable them feed themselves and to enable them take care. But we are not looking at much needed aspect of the innovation that can create a lot of jobs and a lot of wealth to the citizenry of this country.
Okay, so while we might say there are millions of small businesses, they are not positioned in any way to impact on the economy because they lack those things you've listed out. But okay, so Okumagwa, you're the wealth creation advisor. So Here we are with millions of small enterprises, but they are not properly positioned. And here we are with a huge army of unemployed youth particularly. How do we put this together?
Money flows in the streets of Nigeria. Nigerians are not picking it. Nigerians are born with the instinct to succeed. Take a Nigerian to China where he doesn't understand the language and the weather condition is harsh. They survive. How do they survive? We have fundamental issues that needs to be addressed that have impediments to making these young people actually express themselves. Government has done a lot. But what government is doing, if you look at the level and the impact of the intervention, is so minimal when you look at the quantum of people that we need to empower. What we need to do in Nigeria is reorientation of our people. One, we have leaders. There are a lot of leaders. When we were young, we had role models that we're looking out for, that we want to copy. We got to a stage where our role models are people who don't do anything but make money. So a lot of the young people dropped their creativity and started looking out for how they can make money doing nothing. The fundamental issues, which are the impediments for creating entrepreneurs, are not being addressed. We always intervene at the tertiary levels, the educated people, the people who are already doing something. But there's a large crop of people who don't even start at all. People who have the fears of what they have. For example, I give you some example. There are a lot of uneducated people who feel that to be an entrepreneur, you need to be educated. There are a lot of people who, if well reorientated, they will know that they don't need, education is important, but if education is significant to creating wealth, professors of economics should be very rich because they teach the law of demand and supply and everything. But that's not the case. So we have a lot of people who have impediments to even trying at all. Education, not having money, a lot of them actually have ideas, but they think of where will I get the money to start this business? And because of that, they defeat themselves and they don't even try at all. Okay. There are also some people who believe that you need to have a godfather and be connected to be able to get business. If connection and getting connected and getting a godfather is what is a prerequisite for success, the immediate past president will not be president because it was not known in the north, the east, or the west before he became deputy governor. When he became president of this country. If it's by connection and contact, he never will have become president. If manpower, how hard you work, is what creates wealth. The people who carry things that push trucks in the market, they'll make more money because they have more energy and they spend more time. Employment. If having employment is a prerequisite for success, then we are done for. But all these things are excuses that actually inhibit the expression of interest. If proper reorientation is done, a lot of these people will express themselves well. You don't need 1 naira to start a business. Primary business, not at the tertiary level. Our people are oriented in such a way that they are looking for the 1 million, 2 million naira to start a business, where they will rent a shop, they will buy wares in the shop, they will employ people that will work in the shop, they will get generators. When you look at the money that you need to actually raise to start that type of business, you will not even start at all. That is where we have our problem. Okay. The second one is our education system. We don't have a system where we have vocational schools. Those who brought education into Nigeria, a lot of them don't go to school the way we go to, and we shun out graduates. Where are the vocational centers we have in Nigeria? Where is the dignity of labor for those who are actually artisans? Do they have codes where you can actually get registration and have something to show that you have done something that's giving you something? We believe very strongly that most of these universities, all of them should have a way of creating, in fact, we should reduce half of them into vocational centers. Now, I will give you some simple examples of how unemployment can be reduced by over 20% with just reorientation at the basic level. Basic level as in letting people know that all these issues that they have here are all excuses. Do you know that you can actually employ somebody and make money? There's unemployment in Nigeria today. Many people are unemployed. But do you know that is also a solution? Creating employment is the solution. And if you can teach people how to create employment and you get 20% of the people to know that they can employ people and actually create jobs and make money for themselves, you have reduced unemployment by over 10% to 20%. For example, do you know I can employ somebody, putting a notice out there that I want to employ someone, I put a notice that I'm looking for a lawyer, for example, a professional, and I'm willing to pay 100,000 naira a month. I will have so many people apply for the job. If I get that lawyer, I get the best out of them, and I put them in a room, and I tell him that all you'll be doing in this office is write agreements. And I turn around to announce in 5 major churches and the national mosque that anybody that has any type of agreements to do, I charge only 20,000 naira. How many people will be attracted to my office to do agreements? Hundreds. How many do I need to actually do those agreements to pay the lawyer the salary? 5 agreements to pay the lawyer the salary. What have I done? Am I a lawyer? In Nigeria today, we have a lot of lawyers who are jobless. I've just showed you how I can employ a lawyer. Sorry, I'm using the lawyer as an example because you talk about ethics and professional. You don't need to advertise, but I'm not a lawyer. So I can employ a lawyer and open a shop as a businessman and employ a lawyer and apply the principle of getting agreements done. Now, let me tell you how you can simplify that to employing a house girl. People pay house girls 10,000 naira a month. If I get a house girl that knows how to do braids very well, and I put her in my sitting room as a housewife, and I tell that house girl that, look, announce to people in this area who do that they should bring their children to do their hair, and I put that girl in the sitting room and he start doing hair for children. How many hair will you do to pay the salary of the house girl if you pay her 10,000 naira? A housewife who doesn't have anything can start that business with little or nothing. I can go on and tell you more. Okay. How you can use selling sugar cane with a capital of 10,000 naira to make as much as 1.8 million naira a month. I can show you how you can start a school without 1 naira in your pocket. Nigeria has everything we need to create more employment. What we have is we need to go back and do some reorientation in our environment.
All right. Hopefully at the end of this program we would have created a new crop of entrepreneurs, going by what Okumak by Senya. But we are happy to say that we have been joined by the Special Advisor to the President on Social Intervention Programs, Mrs. Mariam Weiss. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. And so, there's a lot that we have been talking about, and going by the figures we got from the Director General of NDE, the frightening statistics about the unemployment rate and what's going into it through SMEDAN, through the NDE itself, what's going into it to reduce to the barest minimum the issue of unemployment and poverty. And we know that at the inception of this program, the President said that was a major focus. Now, how far have we gone with that?
Well, in our own programs, we have the Empower program, which targets 500,000. We've selected 200,000, and they're already working in the schools, they're teaching, they're working in health sector, they're working as agricultural extension workers. The verification for the next 300,000, they will be broken into 2 phases, has already begun. So all over the country now, those that have been selected are going through a verification process at the state level so that they can get deployed to the places where they indicated they have an interest working. That's at the graduate level. At the artisan, the non-graduate level, we created or we've developed some programs for artisans. The N-Build, and we've been talking with the Council of Registered Builders, the Corbon and the Automotive Council, also NADDC. We've signed MOUs with them. We've procured 2 boxes of over about 106 billion. Now they're actually in warehouses, in 6 warehouses around the country. We've selected them. They're going through a verification process also. And they will be working in industry related, we're working with the councils because the plan is for them to be paid 10,000 naira every month. For 3 months, they will be trained. We did an audit of skill training centers. We did an audit in 22 states first, so we've selected 160 And we're doing 15 now. So there'll be another 15 states now, so there'll be another 100 skill centers that we'll be working in. So these younger or less qualified in terms of degrees will be trained in those centers, and then through the councils they will have internships for 9 months. So it's a year's program of being paid. And we've also invested a lot in the modules. We've paid for the training to these 2 councils. Then we're doing an end knowledge category, which is 100,000 youth again, where they're working. We're working with a particular company that's investing about 4.5 billion. We're buying devices from them. They are doing all the training, the software, and all of that. So they will be doing repairs. They'll be training them as agents, because that is a major problem for us, financial inclusion. And we do have a dearth of agents, especially in the remote areas. And it's an easy way for them to make money. Anyway, so we're looking at also teaching them how to repair these devices, the software component, the creativity component. We have 6 or 8 technology hubs in the offing, but we started with 2, but there'll be 1 in each geopolitical zone, plus Abuja. So we have 1 in Lagos that's on renewable energy. So we're being supported by the World Bank and the Lagos Business School. And it's an international, it's a climate change technology hub. We have 1 in Yola, which is a humanitarian hub. So it's focused on trying to address a lot of the issues that we find in the camps, or gender-based violence, shelter, how to organize people at scale. Because this is, I mean, the technology hubs give the opportunity to people who have those kind of ideas. We open it up to challenges, and the one in Yola, in a period of 6 weeks, we got over 300 ideas. We will do a selection process with judges, and then we'll back their ideas with money, so that we're able to address, and very interesting ideas have come up. So we're just trying to create a knowledge-driven economy, because then you really don't have to have the degree, but you will be able to take ownership of your life.
You know, when I listen to you, enumerate these programs,
yes,
I listen to what's coming through the NDE and SMEDAN, and then I wonder when I hear people say, there's so much unemployment and poverty, and nobody's doing anything about it. How do you respond to that?
Well, it's partly our fault. I think we haven't given enough publicity about what we're doing. That's what I think. I mean, I've come across so many people who just come up to you and say, I'm an Empower person, and even though I'm in the teaching profession, I actually have a farm, and I'm employing 6 people who are working with me. There's so many good stories out there that are developing, and even with our programs that pay less, like the grants for our cash transfers, you find women doing charcoal business. They're actually employing people, even with the 10,000 in 2 months. Our cooks that are feeding are employing women to wash their bowls, to help them serve. So there's a triple effect, or multiplier effect, that is not quantified. And beyond our own programs, there's so much happening in the agricultural sphere. So many young people are going back to the farms. So I think there are many naysayers. There's a lot of skepticism, and I don't blame Nigerians, because we've been disappointed time and time again. But I feel that with time, people will come to understand and appreciate what is being done. It's just the confidence is necessary for people to take ownership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, skills. That's a key word in all of this. And the NDE, let's talk about skills. Helping people who otherwise would just be on their own to attain, to acquire the skills that will help them either start off or enhance their enterprises, or, you know, even become trainers themselves?
Thank you very much. I tell you, within 7 months, when I resume as Director General of the NDE, I can say it anywhere. We're able to create 119,761 jobs. We have just done this one. Mega Bino was 76,400. We launched this thing on the 9th in Kasana. And the way we did it is simple. We don't need to move anybody. What we did, out of this Mega Binos, that is Basic National Open Apprentice Scheme, 70% we gave it to cosmetology, principally women, because we believe they are more vulnerable.
Okay.
The remaining 30% we gave it to other trades. When I'm talking of cosmetology, this is where women are being trained on tie and dye, shoe making, bags making, liquid soap, solid soap, and other trades. While the young men are being trained on other trades based on demand driven, on how to repair GSM repair, auto mechanic, brick blocks making, interlock, POP, furniture, and the rest of them. And the way we do it is simple. We don't have to move anybody. Within your local government, if, for example, you said you want to learn a trade on furniture making, we'll look at a master crafter within the local government. After we give you BBT, basic business training, we attach you to him. We have our logbook, we have our attendance register, we have our ID cards. At the end of every month, we pay the trainer stipends, and at the same time, we pay the trainee stipends. We don't need to move anybody within your own locality, within your own house, within your own area. That is for Binos. If you look at other training that we are doing, like under Special Public Works, we went to the extent of even picking some of these skilled, unskilled, and semi-skilled laborers that you see along the road with their tools. We went round, we talked to some multinational companies, because there are a lot of construction going on in Abuja. We were able to get across and got job for some of them as casual. And I think there are some that were even now being considered as permanent. Apart from that, we believe area of agriculture is one area where you can create a lot of jobs.
Okay. We'll get into agriculture in a moment, but the lines are open and we have a first caller from Katsina. Ismaila calling from Katsina. Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, first of all, I would like to appreciate the effort of the NDE board pertaining the program and also the awareness, even their social media handles like Facebook. And also the issue of N-Power. As she said, it's like they are lacking the issue of awareness. Honestly, especially the northern states, you know, we lack media houses. Yes. So honestly, there is need for them to even use the local chieftains like Megari, Hakimi, and other village heads, and also the Meungwa as the area, local government area was head, for them to sensitize the youth there in our northern states. Yes, for instance, Kazina. Most of the youth, they have zeal and interest to join such programs, but we don't have media houses, honestly, for them to sensitize or announce such programs. Yes, and also the issue of SMEDAN. There is need for them to create a kind of room for those who are, especially the startups, yes, to get a direct link with the agency for the startup to be laying their complaints or their innovative ideas. Yes. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Ismaila from Katsina. Well, a number. Let's take it from the last matter you raised, and with the Director General of SMEDAN.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the most critical thing is that people should understand the fact that SMEDAN has offices in all the states of the Federation. And in these offices, we run what we call a business clinic. And the essence of the business clinic is for any entrepreneur who wishes to enter into any of our offices, he can go and ask all the kind of questions that he wants to ask that relates to entrepreneurship development, relates to linkages to other agencies of government that has one thing or the other to do with MSMEs, because ours is to facilitate. We can make linkages, we can facilitate, facilitate access to finance, we can facilitate access to other agencies of government that can help in compliance, as regards to compliance or other regulatory, like NAFDAC, like Standard Organization of Nigeria, like BOI, like all these agencies of government SMEDAN stand a better position to link them up with all these agencies and to facilitate all what they needed from those agencies. And then we provide managerial account bookkeeping, managerial, and a lot of other things that has to do with business development support. And this is the major area of our concern, and this is the major area. I will go back to what Mr. Francis said about reorientation, because this is a very key element toward the success of entrepreneurship growth in Nigeria, because that was the reason why SMEDAN came up with this program, which we call N-Ship. That is, we call the program, the generic name of the program is Mind Shift. We want to change the mind shift. We want to shift the minds of our young people, especially at primary and secondary school level, so that they will come up and develop the habit of entrepreneurship in them, so that as they grow, they will look themselves more as employers of labor rather than waiting for government to provide employment. Because if we look at it all over the world, government has never been the major provider of employment in all over the Federation, everywhere in the world. It is only the private sector. What the government do is to create an enabling environment, to make the environment suitable for businesses to flourish. And the essence of doing that, this present administration of General Muhammadu Buhari is doing much about that. We have what we call presidential enabling environment, enabling presidential ease of doing business committee that was chaired by the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, that provide all the necessary things that may be required to ease doing business in the country. And we have seen what has been championed by His Excellency the Vice President as regard to MSME clinic. The essence of having the MSME clinic, we go around the state, and the essence of doing that is to provide a platform where there will be interface between government agencies, that is the regulatory agencies, and the entrepreneurs. And it was mandated that all the chief executives should be at the MSME clinic under the leadership of the Vice President, so that all the problems, it's just like any other clinic, problems will be presented and solutions will be made there and then.
Okay. We have on the line Mohammed calling in from Abuja here. Mohammed, hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you, sir? Good evening. Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Mohammed. Go ahead.
How are you, sir? I wish to appreciate the three gentle people in your studio. I wish to appreciate the three gentle people in your studio. But let me first of all address the SSC to the President on job creation. Madam, I believe that your program is too elitist. when you have to compare your Empower program with Shopee, because I'm saying this because the Empower is not well advertised. There are a lot of unemployment youths that are looking for the office of the Empower. They cannot reach Empower. In short, just last yesterday, I was discussing with some youths, and they are still complaining that they cannot get the website of Empower to register their desire. So I believe the Empower is too elitist. I'm sorry to say. And that of NDE, DG. Sir, I wish to disagree with you. Training is never job creation. A training, if an unemployed person is on training, training is a means to an end. It's not an end to itself. It is when a person is trained and he is settled, he is given all what it requires to carry on. In short, he's been given an entrepreneurship training and he has settled to organize himself and to put into life what he has acquired. That is when that person is employed. But when we just locally say we are training 190,000, sir, I believe we are not, those guys are not employed yet. Because it's a process. So that is what I want to say, sir.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. Clear issues. First, he thinks the NPAR scheme is elitist. So,
I don't know. I mean, I wish he had clarified. We pay our youth directly, so each and every one of our beneficiaries needs to have an account because we want to be able to track the money and audit. I don't think there can be any comparison between what happened under Shopee with what is happening now in terms of transparency, in terms of the impact. We've got devices given to them. This is at a level that is graduate, HND and above. So I don't know if they are elitist, fine, you know, but we also have an eye on those that are not as educated. And these are the ones we're trying to boost. We have a Jeep program also that's dispersed, you know, almost to over 400,000 so far. So those people are also, we're creating jobs because it's money that we're paying to them directly. So I mean, I don't know, I wish he had clarified what is, or how much he knows.
He said, well, he saw some youths, they say they don't know where NPAR office
we
is.
Have a situation.
And another one says they cannot access the website of NPAR.
We have a website, and we have a situation room in Abuja that works 24 hours. People call day in, day out with their challenges. What we're facing is we're working against a culture. A lot of jurisdictions are saying you didn't pick enough of our indigents, or you have picked non-indigents in our state. And we're telling them, should we give you the coordinates, the numbers of your indigents that are being taken in other states? Right. Because what the federal government is about is that anybody can live anywhere and work anywhere. I thought actually that would be the criticism, because we've seen it coming up again and again. People are saying only our indigents, and we're telling the states or the FCT, create your own employment scheme if you want something for your indigents. But so far as it's federal government money, anybody can live and work anywhere in Nigeria. And so long as you apply, it's 30,000. It's not enough for you to be accommodated or to be doing transportation every morning to your place of work. So you apply where you live. So if you're going to be teaching in a school, it's going to be nearby. And you're going to have somewhere you live anyway. So this is the idea behind, and Empire isn't really about you being absorbed into government after 2 years. It's about you getting your hands dirty along the value chain for a period of 2 years, knowing where, as you grow, where it is that you have an interest in and where you can now and begin to set up your own business. Because our devices have a lot of information on entrepreneurship, on basic financial skills, apart from, of course, the information that is relevant to the vocation that you have selected.
All right. Well, yes, you were going to respond to an issue here.
Yeah, Mohammed, how are you? It's not just the issue of training. After training, we normally provide startup packs.
Right.
And where we have problems as far as providing those startup packs, we're in collaboration with the members of the higher and lower chambers. We advise them on what to do, that we train so young men within your locality. And I think instead of buying motorcycles or tricycles, I think it's better if you can buy barbing kits for them, or maybe you provide them with other working tools. And in addition to that, Mohammed, we have gone far as collaborating with CBN is concerned. We want to do a program, what we called 50 under 35. We're looking at the possibility of creating 50 young entrepreneurs in each of the 109 senatorial zone. We are coming in, we are targeting people with established businesses, people with fantastic ideas. We are coming in to access loan, so that at least at the end of the day, we are targeting about 5,450. So this is part of what we are planning to do, so you can apply.
All right. Kumamba, just two things here, Mogame. Right, as you say, as wealth everywhere, you just need to change the mindset to be able to access it. But you do have people who are into small businesses, and they're starting up, and they have challenges. Talking about access, when they actually require money to go, to take the next step, to go to the next level, access to finance. And another issue which comes up all the time is what they face with regulatory agencies. For those who are setting up businesses that, have to be regulated, NAFDAC, Standards Organization, and you find the young entrepreneur who is just starting out and who has very little capital is faced with so many conditions to satisfy in order to have a registrable business. How do you advise that?
You know what? I want to digress a bit and contribute a little bit on what has been discussed. The problem we have in Nigeria is not that government is not doing something. Government is doing a lot. But if you compare the impact on the level of unemployment, it can be zeroed out that they are not doing anything. That's the reaction that we are getting from the public. I hear figures. What is the statistics of unemployment? What is the intervention that we are hearing? I don't think government should get involved with solving and implementing problems. They should create the enabling environment for institutions that are already on ground to impact more on a much number of people, so you can actually have the impact. I say this because if government is going to intervene and they are bringing an amount of money, how far can you go? Look at the amnesty program. How much was given out on the amnesty program? A lot of people were sent abroad. What number were sent abroad to go and learn something or the other, go to school again? And they came back from those schools and they are still in the unemployment market. What our intervention is that? Empower is a very good program, very powerful. How many people have been impacted? ND is doing a lot. How many hundreds of people? How many people do we graduate this year from the university? If you say you have a problem of unemployment and you go on to try to solve 1% of the population or reach out to 1% of the population, you have not done anything. That is what the public is facing. Now let me tell you what the intervention that we need in Nigeria. One, our education system. We need to tweak our education system. We are over-schooled. Too many universities doing degree programs that shall not graduate cannot present themselves as graduates. The people who brought education into Nigeria, they don't take universities the way we take universities anymore. They are going back to look at vocational schools. They are converting a lot of things into vocational schools. Look at China. China has changed the IT. The world has gone global. What are we doing? What intervention are we doing to ensure that people are exposed to the global internet system? If you open a shop and try to open a shop, you buy so many things on the shop. You have to rent a shop. Do you know today you can actually start doing business on the internet without putting anything, without putting 1 naira in it? Take the picture of somebody that don't close, a tailor whose shop is in Buhari, cannot afford a shop in Wuse too. And I go there and I take pictures of the things that he does. And I put it on Facebook instead of doing selfie and put it on Facebook. And I actually put those pictures on Facebook. Negotiate with the owner of the shop that I will sell for you and become your agent. And put the amount there, including my commission, without paying the price of the rent and all the overheads that you need to get to do business. I will reach more traffic on the internet than the person that has the shop, that is producing the goods. How many people can become entrepreneurs just buying and selling without putting money in the things that they bought? Now, impediments to creating employment. We also have the issue of ease of doing business. Government should intervene significantly on ease of doing business. If we go today into the educational system, we say create an enabling environment for all universities to have vocational centers incorporated in every university. You will have increased the number of people who are interested in doing vocational programs. They will be happy because they will have a certificate. They will do matriculation. They will do convocation. They will invite their families. They will feel the importance of having a trade that they've gotten. That is intervention. The corpus that are coming from the university, for example, this Empower intervention, if we say we'll go to NYC and implement something in NYC that will change the hundreds of people that are graduating, it's a lot of impact. Now look at power supply. If we intervene by saying that, oh, there will be power systems such that it will be easy for people to start business and have power without paying for power, you are intervening. But don't get money and say you want to implement a program as federal government. How far can you go? Then look at donor agencies. Today, the ease of getting donor agencies will bring a lot of funds into Nigeria and repatriate those money without utilizing the money. Because we don't have collaborations. We don't have effective collaboration with government agencies, private sector owners who understand the basic wealth education that could be applied. These monies can actually be attracted by creating trust, because today, the donor agencies see the government agencies are very bureaucratic, they will not implement. The private sector company, you have a lot of youngsters who are jobless, who just set up briefcase companies and wait to dupe people by telling them they have NGOs to attract money from donor agencies. So a lot of the donor agencies go back with those monies and they are never utilized. A government agent should sit down and look at the private sector company and collaborate with the private sector company, bringing credibility into the structure, and those monies can be attracted. That is intervention.
Okay.
Intervention that is impactful, that can take more people. They talk about so many things that people are doing, and I look at the numbers, and I'm asking myself, how will this impact on Nigerians? Now, I also want to take the issue of access to loan.
Yeah.
Access to loan is played, lip service is what we are doing. Because if you really go to the banks, a lot of the entrepreneurs cannot access the banks. Look at the banking industry today. There is no liquidity out there because all the monies have been taken into CBN, in TSA. The banks that you see now, they are just glorified offices. And a lot of these entrepreneurs that we're talking about cannot visit the banking hall because they are scared. I was once a banker. I know the number of people that see the banking hall and they are scared of approaching the bank. Talk less of going to actually discuss business. If you're in a civilized environment, you have a certificate, you can borrow money to start a business. But I'm telling you that the more impactful intervention that we can do to entrepreneurship is to go back to the basics.
All right.
And teach basic wealth education and make it holistic and make it far-reaching and reach out to more people that we're actually meeting now.
Okay, so two things you raised about the access to finances. Yes, you've just said it. The banks are not going to give out loans that easily. It's difficult. Now you have to find a way around that. Secondly, again, the issue of the regulatory bodies. For the budding entrepreneur, the conditions seem too stringent. Let me just give you a practical example. I have a number of people who say they decided to go into packaging of gari. And you find that it's all over the place now. We have all kinds of small businesses. They are packaging gari and selling. But they have an issue. Their premises need to be registered for them to do that. And they say the conditions that are put forward by the regulatory agencies are conditions they cannot meet. They cannot meet with the amount of money available to them. And so they just remain basically a conduit for the established companies to push their products out into the market. What do you say about that?
You see, we always talk at the advanced level. What you are talking about is advanced. The entrepreneurs we are talking about are people that want to start today. They cannot access, they have not reached that level yet. These are people who want to, if they want to sell gari, they will package gari first in their locality and sell to people. Do they have the capacity to do the type of quantity of gari that they will require the regulatory authorities to stamp? They don't have the money to even go to the where they will do the processing and packaging and putting the packages together. The entrepreneurs we are addressing are those who are just starting. Somebody wants to start business with nothing. His market is around his environment. He does not need to do any form of packaging. You don't go to the market and tell people that are selling gari in the market to come and bring NAFDAC number. That's not where it is. Those who they are asking NAFDAC number are people that have matured, who should have the NAFDAC number because they have gone wholesale. So the NAFDAC number is not an excuse. The real excuse is the fact that they defeat themselves from the start. That this business, they don't have the money to start. And where we should address is the basic, elementary. That's where we have the biggest problem. People who don't start at all. We need to reorientate their minds. Do you know that you can sell sugarcane and make 1.8 million naira a month without touching the sugarcane as a graduate? Sugarcane is still packaged the way our forefathers packaged sugarcane. Who did not go to school? We still sell sugarcane in Nigeria on wheelbarrows. Not hygienic, not presentable. Who checks the NAFDAC number from those people that are carrying the sugarcane? Has it been corrected? Who is stopping them? Can I tell you I can repackage sugarcane and sell sugarcane and make 1.8 million naira a month with a capital of 10,000 naira to 20,000 naira? Get the person that is getting there to get it from the farm. Tell them to clean the sugarcane very well and cut it into bits and put it in a transparent plastic bowl and seal it. You have packaged. You can sell in your immediate environment. You don't have to go too far. Employ 6 graduates because they like working. Call them marketers. Promise to pay them 50,000 naira a month so you can get enough people to sell the number you need to make the 1 million naira. You will package the sugarcane, employ 6 graduates, put 2 of them in charge of supermarkets, 2 of them in charge of the secretariat, for example, 1 in charge of University of Abuja and 1 in Wuse Market. They will sell the sugarcane at 200 naira each. 500 packs of those sugarcane will give them 100,000 naira a day. The capital is 10,000 naira. They will make 90,000 naira a day selling sugarcane with a capital of 10,000 naira. Check out Saturday and Sunday. There are 20 days in a month. If you multiply that 90,000 naira by the 20,000 naira, it will give you 1.8 million naira. By the 200 naira, it will give you 1.8 million naira. The salary of the 6 graduates at 50,000 naira is 300,000. That's 1.5 million naira a month selling sugarcane with a capital of 10,000 naira. I will tell you more. Money flows in the streets of Nigeria. What we need to do in Nigeria is to intervene by training people in universities, in secondary schools, in primary schools, by putting it in their curriculum. That is intervention. To show them how they can start business and how they can actually understand basic wealth education.
I like the sugarcane example because it will take us back to the issue of reorientation and the change of the mindset. That's what we'll be looking at when we return after this short break. I say this because you will find still among so many people those who tell you, oh, it's good to talk about selling sugarcane, but me, with a bachelor's in
you don't need to touch that.
why should I sell sugarcane? Anyhow, stay with us. We'll take a short break. We'll be back after this time out.
Our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, so plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Minister of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. Well, we did say we'll talk about changing the mindset and also reorientation and education, because it's been shown so many times that even at the very low level of craftsmen, you know, we find that neighboring countries provide the workforce for Nigerians, and people tend to wonder why. They go out and recruit artisans, bricklayers, they bring them from neighboring countries, and there are so many Nigerian youths who are. So perhaps we should begin to address that more, about changing the mindset and about the educational system where everybody must have a degree.
I agree absolutely, but I also think our banks need to change their own mindset. They're used to high net worth individuals with a little money, with huge amounts of foreign exchange, and they just place it in treasury bills and it grows. But there's a huge army of people there who don't have that much money, that the banks can actually provide, you know, support to in growing their businesses. And you find that the people at the bottom of the financial pyramid are actually very strong, very resilient, very hardworking. They just need somebody to hold their hands. They just need a small opportunity. And we're seeing it in the remote areas where we see our people growing. The banks need to have strategies to help those people, support those people in those areas, but they don't want to go to the poor people. You don't find banking infrastructure in poor communities. Banks only go where there's a budding business, where there's no poverty. So how do we address those needs? Even the sheer volume of clients or customers that they will get if they have strategies, they have agents out there, they're able to build the confidence, the trust of people they can train as agents and get them to capture all those different people who actually want to work. You know, and I keep saying our loans are doing quite a bit of work. Our loans are 10,000 to 100,000. You don't need a collateral. All you need to do is form a cooperative with people that you trust, because they will endorse that you will pay back. There's no interest element. There's a 5% administrative fee. So we have a lot of people doing businesses, from very small things like shea butter to dawa dawa to artisans. You know, we've tried, or we're in the process of trying to tweak our loans to fit the farmers, because it'll have to be a seasonal thing for farmers. But there's a lot that's going out, and he mentioned the MSME clinics. That is happening also. So I mean, government, because of the huge numbers out there, you know, it's not something that started today or yesterday. It's grown in this country. It's crept up on us, and we just need to start somewhere. So I'm not discouraged or disillusioned by the huge numbers. I mean, it starts with a step. And I believe so long as you create the opportunities and it has multiplier effect, it will generally, I mean, it will grow to be able to encourage people to take ownership, to become entrepreneurs.
You did start talking about opportunities in the agricultural sector, and now we asked you to put it on hold at one point. Now that's one thing where you hear so many people say, a lot of the young people are saying that there are opportunities to be had in agriculture, and so there's a shift. Even if you might say you need more into that, what's on ground in terms of that?
You see, under our Department of REP, Rural Employment Promotion Program, that is REP, as I'm talking to you now, we are into collaboration with Scientific Center for Arid Studies in Askia, Algeria. They have this improved variety of dates, which start producing within the period of 9 months to 1 year. The only condition, it needs about 13 liters of water per day. And we're about to bring in 1 million seedlings. And by so doing, we're going to create 5,000 jobs. 200 seedlings per unemployed Nigerian, and we're going to pay them stipends to look after that. But let me deviate a bit. We're always talking of how to come in, how to assist people so that they can be on their own. Mr. Cyril, if I can tell you, since the time of inception of NDE, about 1.4 billion was given in form of loans. But as I'm talking to you now, only about 239 million was recovered. And fortunately, I'm not being biased when I said the training out of these 76,400, 70% are women, because 80% of those that paid their loans are women. And now we are coming with a program. We'll go deep into the rural areas. If your capital is just maybe 5,000, you are selling akamu, or you are selling soap, or you are selling groundnut oil, we are looking at the possibility of giving you at least 20,000 naira, whereby it's not a grant, but it's a loan. You only pay about maybe 100 naira in a month.
So the women are better in terms of redemption of loans.
They are better. They are easier to deal with, because I don't know, they have they have the fear of God more than you know. And no, that's the truth. Yeah, that's the truth, because 80% of them, those that paid our loan, are women, and that's the reason why under this REP, Rural Employment Promotion, we are targeting them. Apart from they are vulnerable, we know there are people that definitely would pay our money.
In any case, some might tell you that one of the challenges, well, we are always looking out for the challenges because like Kumagba says, people who want to get something going will look for, those hurdles that will prevent them. With agriculture, they will tell you there are issues of access to land and all such matters. And how do you surmount those ones, basically?
We realized that it cost about 164,000 naira to cultivate 1 hectare of land, more especially in the old states. I'm talking of maize. And after cultivation, their profit margin is about 210. We tried that with some young men, and I'm telling you, it's a success story. They return our money and they expand. So we are into that. We are also giving them interest-free loan. They are the ones to source for the lands. We have our stake coordinators there to monitor everything, and that is part of what we are doing. And in fact, we want to shift it virtually to all the states. At least we want to involve 100 young men and women in each state to cultivate about 100 hectares. It's just 164,000. And within shortest possible time, and the profit margin is about 210. So they return our money, they still have their 210 to expand.
Okay, still talking about the change of, an amendment to the way education is run. You find that from certain smaller, and I say this not to put any country down, smaller countries, they have artisans who are certificated. We have the mentorship, well, albeit in a loose manner here. Somebody trains under some established mechanic, and we use the word freedom. At the end of the day, there is no parameter with which to judge whether he has actually learned or he has actually, imbibed the training he has received. But you see, in some neighboring countries, there is a body that attests that this person has attained this level of skills and knowledge in, if it is auto mechanics or block making or something. So there's something to show that you have really acquired knowledge, which is absent here. And that's why you see you really don't have any. Someone tells you, oh, he was an apprentice for 3 months, or was an apprentice for 5 years, and after that he's on his own, but he cannot tell you how much he has learned during that period.
In my life of impacting and doing empowerment, I always emphasize looking at problems, how we can solve that problems without money. The reason why I do this because even when these monies are provided by government agencies and all that, they are diverted by politicians through influences, different influences, that make it impossible to actually implement those monies like that. When you give people money and you don't give them the basic wealth education and the principle to make them have the mindset and the right grooming and the right disposition to those works and those things they need to do, the monies will fritter away. I have a lot of politicians who do empowerment by buying motorcycles, machines, and all that. As they turn their back, they sell those machines immediately. Some of the Niger Delta youth, for instance, were given 60,000 naira. They collect the 60,000 naira, they don't do anything. In fact, that thing was helped in making people more unemployed. Who are we talking about? People that are unemployed. Not people that are already in employment, are entrepreneurs already. Leave those people. If somebody comes to you that is already doing business, leave the person. He will grow through that business, go through the hard ways and understand and correct himself and mature in that business. The problem we have is the unemployed and people that are poor. That is where you have the largest number of people. And those are the people that we are not talking to. Those people, you don't need to give them money. What you need to give them is the orientation. And what I'm saying that government should do that will be very impactful in this our time is to go to the education system and teach the teachers how to incorporate basic wealth education principles that can help people who are going to school now understand it. When they go into the NYC area, get people that will go there to reorientate their minds. Let government bring collaboration opportunities that will bring donor agencies to bring more monies to finance those transactions. Bankers, for instance, if bankers know that if they educate their retail customers and potential retail customers how to start business without 1 naira in their pocket or with little or no capital, and they can train them and start doing business, they will patronize them and start opening accounts with them. And the benefit there is that they open an account, they will increase their business volume, but they will have given basic wealth education to their customers. It will improve the number of people that we are actually going out to meet. For these government agencies that are on now, what they are doing now, for me, they have enough money to do basic wealth education that can reduce unemployment by 20%.
Okay, let me just ask you to pause a while there. And we're taking this call from Port Harcourt. I'm not quite sure the name of this caller. From Port Harcourt.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. Well, I really want to appreciate the guest and everyone in the house and life. Yeah. Actually, I left secondary school a year ago, and I engaged into an entrepreneurship program, a skill program, and I began to do something actually. But what I'm trying to say is, actually there is no support from any angle. It can actually boosting the skill that some of us have actually engaged in. And this is one of the problems we are having. You see, nobody to actually raise and to support what we've already started. Like, I've already started something, I'm so skillful, I have business ideas, but nobody to actually help, to support, and to push the vision ahead. So, if I really get someone that can actually help me and do most of the things and carry most of the load from me, I'll really appreciate it. Because most of the programs that they are talking, I myself, I'm not witnessing it. I'm not seeing it within my area because I stay in Port Harcourt. I'm not seeing it. It's not here in Port Harcourt. So they should try to bring this close to us so that we can be part of the program that is going on.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for calling in. Well, you have the...
Yeah, but we have offices in Port Harcourt. As I said, he can always walk in to the ND office in Port Harcourt. He can meet our state coordinator. Definitely, they will sit with him, discuss what kind of business he's doing, and they will definitely go and look at exactly what he's doing. If it's something viable, definitely we can come in and assist.
Right.
And I believe the same thing with SMEDAN, they also have offices. So if you can go to any of these two offices, I believe somewhere along the line, help me.
Well, just to help the young man, we have a platform. I have an empowerment company, and the name FMG is Free Mentorship Grooming. You can actually hook up to us, and we'll give you free consultation on how you can start any business with little or nothing, and how you can also increase the volume of your business. And all you need to do is link up with us with FMG platform on our Twitter handle, and you can also get us on Facebook. And we are open to actually encouraging a lot of young people who have ideas, and the problem they have is the money to start the business.
Okay. How did you
I think essentially, I think that was the reason why we came up with a program that we call NADIP. This program is a program that is a tripartite agreement between SMEDAN, ITF, and Bank of Industry. SMEDAN is to provide entrepreneurship training and business development support. ITF is to provide technical and vocational skills, and then we now package those people to Bank of Industry to access funding. And that is this because the essence of doing that is you can't just have funds when you don't have the basic capacity building that is required for you to move on your innovation, for you to move on your businesses, for your business to grow. And then he has raised an issue which is very important. He said we should have an enabling environment. Some people does not necessarily need money, but what they need is a workspace where they can sit and do their businesses. Some people are service providers, some people are producers, and some people need constant supply of land or power. So if we have these enterprise clusters in each state, then that will enable us to have a place where a business owner can have a workspace, can have 24 hours electricity supply, he has constant supply of water, he can do whatever, and it makes it easier for regulatory authorities and even the financial institutions to supervise them when they are in a cluster. It gives easy access, it gives easy, affordable environment for them to operate, and that is the reason why we came up with a program now which we call OLOP, One Local Government, One Product. And this OLOP, the essence of doing OLOP, because you know SMEDAN is not a funding agency, but because of the need for funding by most of the entrepreneurs in the country, this program, we embedded financial aspect in it.
Okay.
Because we identify a common product in a local government who are who happens to be in an organic cluster. Then we now see what they do, form them into cooperative, provide them a working machinery so that they can scale up their production. And when you provide them working with a common machinery that they can escalate their production, we also give them a working capital, which is an interest-free. It's a money that we give them. We don't need them to give any additional cover. Our agency pays the microfinance institution the 5% administrative charges. But the essence of giving them that amount of money, we have given them the machinery, we have given them that, then we will link them with the market.
Okay.
And we also provide entrepreneurship training before they start anything. And this will ease up a lot of hardship in the area of provision of finance to most of these entrepreneurs.
We have Amos calling in from Uyo. Hello, Amos.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am part of your program this evening. I'm listening to you as I'm talking. So, yeah, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead.
I'm part of your program this moment.
All right.
I'm listening to you as you are talking now.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the program. Each time I listen to programs on entrepreneurship, I'm always interested. Yes. So I'm always interested. So I really listen to the discussant in suits. I really appreciate his knowledge. The doctor is doing well, but I want us to really listen to him. Though I disagree with him, at no point there is no business you can do. There is no way you can work without a dime. So I disagree with him on that point. But practically, he has really given a pathway to how to develop the youths of Nigeria. He has really given us what to do. So I want the authorities to really listen to him. Okay. I've talked to some youths in my locality. I've heard them say a lot of them have skills, a lot of them have trained and knowledge on certain issues. What they need is monitoring. What they need is a little financing. And with these ideas, these guys Nigerian can be turned around. Whatever the government is doing should not be driven by politicians. It should not be driven by government agencies. Government agencies, most times, sorry to say it, are politicized. They should look for middlemen, NGOs, organizations that they can monitor who will drive this into the grassroots to the right people that really need this thing. Talk about banks loan is very difficult, if not completely out of place. The banks doesn't give loans. You can hardly get loans from banks at the level we are talking, which is the level the man is talking about. The level we are talking about is not the level of people that have started businesses. It's not the level of people that have been established. It's the level of people that haven't started anything.
All right. Good. Thank you, Amos. Okay. Yes, we've talked about it. We've captured those who haven't started. But yes, they get started. And they cannot remain stagnant. They still have to grow. So some of these issues we are raising are issues that those who start will eventually have to deal with as they grow their businesses and become bigger. There are categories of small enterprises that not so small, But as we say, they start somewhere, and as they grow, they will definitely face issues which we're raising here about how to improve on those businesses and even sustain them in the first place. All right? Again, we talked about regulatory agencies. Should there be a second look at some of the conditions for certain categories or certain, sizes of businesses?
For regulation, you can't take out regulation. If you take out regulation, you will get rubbish. And you will have issues of health hazards and all that. So regulation is compulsory. But I keep saying that the level where we need intervention is not at that level.
Okay.
The level where you have the larger number of people that needs to be empowered are under those levels. They don't get to that level. They sell in their locality. You don't go to sell something in the market and look for NAFDAC number. It's when you have advanced to doing very large volumes and you already have money. That's when you do that. So you must go through the regulations because you are going en masse into the market. Now, I want to reiterate. That guy asked the question just now that there is no business you can't start without money. I insist and I profess that every business you can think about, you can start with little or nothing. Because I'm not saying start at the level where you are already mature. Starting the business from nothing. You can open a shop without 1 naira in your pocket. You can start a school without 1 naira in your pocket. You can do agency without 1 naira in your pocket. I want to advise that we need to reorientate the way government intervene on unemployment. And there, I want to give you my advice, profess some of the advice that I have. If you put up a policy out today that every school must teach basic wealth education, you have intervened significantly. Every religious group should incorporate in their various preachings and all that basic wealth education. You are intervening. If you put in your system that our educational system must have vocational, if I turn half of the universities into vocational schools, you are intervening. If you also look at the issue of the power issue, if we can resolve the power issue, that you have intervened. If you also look at the issue of security and identification is what makes it impossible for a lot of people to have loans and all that. Let us have an identification system. People have SIN number. If you have a SIN number, for instance, you can address and look at somebody and be able to locate the person. And if you blacklist that person, it's difficult for the person to do something else. You should also have schools where you can have vocational programs with certification, so that people will feel good that they are doing something that people appreciate.
All right.
Finally,
just quickly, before you go on that, we have a caller from the UK who's waiting on the line. Lukman is calling in from the UK. Hello, Lukman.
Hi. Thanks for picking up my call.
Yes.
I'll be quick. I have 3 contributions I want to make. The first one is the issue of the idea that government intervention is not really warranted. I profoundly disagree with that because the fact that people think that ordinary private or individual or small business enough is alone to help elevate people out of poverty is completely wrong. Because if you look at these big companies like Apple, Google, and all the like, they get grants from government here in the UK as well as in the US. You do not have to take my word for it. Read a book called Entrepreneurial State, right? And it tells you how the idea of just ordinary free market without government intervention is not really enough. Government needs to play an active role in investing in the young people particularly. And also, the idea that we are over-emphasizing on education. The majority of Nigerian youth have no access to education. Look, most people, if you just look at Harvard, for instance, you will see people who are actively, industrially using their own local environment to create jobs. But I think all these more individual endeavors to help people with businesses have to go to the grassroots where ordinary people are being industrial, using their own initiative to start up. And the issue of banks as well, which is my second contribution. The idea of financial justice is non-existent in Nigeria. Banks don't go to rural area because they say that the rural area are kind of like a investment risky, you see. And then the government needs to play an active role to be able to for these young people who actually want to do something. And you have to understand as well, farming itself, with climate change, is becoming very problematic. We need to address the issue of climate change in Nigeria. It's less spoken about. So many people can go into farming, but how can you predict the weather? And also, the overgrazing of land, the land tenure thing has to be discussed. It's planning crisis and everything. It's planning and integration from the northern Nigeria towards the western Nigeria because of land, of climate change, because they need a greener pasture to graze their animals. So therefore, taking land away from people who are supposed to be farming. So this is the crisis itself, right? And I think that's all I want to say. But that the idea that government does not have a role to play in helping people, I think that is unfounded. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I still believes that government has a key role to play, and no matter how you look at it, she's brought in the other angle of climate change, how it's affecting, grazing patterns. Again, it brings us back to the issue of agriculture and land, and how, the crisis we're witnessing is one of basically one of access to land again.
Yeah, honestly, government has a very important role to play in regulating the environment to make it better for the farmers to produce their goods. And the major impediment to production of most of the production we do in agriculture is that we only produce and sell the grains, but we don't put value chain into it.
Right.
Because we have to add value into what we produce to enable us, because you may end up producing maize, but the person you sell the maize to, who turn the maize into something else, will make more money than you that produces the maize. So I think what we need to do in that regard is to add value to what we do. When we produce, then we process. Because if we didn't process, we didn't create employment, we didn't create wealth. We are only doing this, it's like we are just doing a level to somebody who is making more money than us, that are wasting our time and doing all the basics to produce those goods. I think the government intervention is very important. If you look at this outgrowers thing from the CBN, it has really greatly impacted to the economy of this nation. And this is as a result of the intervention of the government. If you look at Kebbi, the rice we produce as at today in Kebbi State is really something that is mind-boggling, because we have never expected that a state like Kebbi can produce that kind of rice, which is in millions of tons. And I think it will go a long way in making Nigeria self-sufficient and then making Nigeria an exporter of rice instead of being a major importer of rice. And this is something that will create a lot of waste. And it's a chain. Those people that will process, those people that will export, those people that will sell outside, at the return on the economy is going to be very huge. And I think we need really the intervention of government in most of these things so that it will make it easier for people. And we have to look at our land tenure system in the country, because it is really, really affecting. Like if you look in the panels, if you look at the inheritance system of land tenure, you see if you have a father who has only 2 hectares of lands and he has about 10 children, if he dies, they will divide and share those lands into 10 categories, which make it difficult for you to make a many very important and meaningful use of that particular land. And I think we need to look at all these issues. And I want to give an example of government intervention when it comes to regulate. No, nobody says that we shouldn't regulate. But honestly, we should give a kind of consideration when we come to regulation. We were in India, we were in China recently, and we have found out that some people can produce, some women can produce a lot of things in their kitchen. After they have cooked their food, they clean the kitchen and produce something that they will sell. But when you go to NAFDAC, when you ask for them to give you a certification to produce gari, they will not allow you. They will ask you to have 2 bedrooms or maybe some rooms or some very big space that will enable you to have these things. We have to consider all these things, and we have to also look at the small scale, smallholders. Some people that cannot afford to have a space. Some people that cannot afford, they don't even have the capacity, but they can use their houses to produce those kind of things. these are the kind of intervention that we needed. And the financial institutions, they also need to look at their processes, because they don't consider, because they are into business. We don't have to look at the commercial banks because they are into business. They want to make profit. But we have government established institutions. These banks that are established by the government are developed, we even call them development banks. The essence of those banks is to make it easier for the people that want to access funding, to access it easily. And the government is doing a lot of things about it this time around, because they have recently established Development Bank of Nigeria, which is saddled with the responsibility of giving financial help to only small and medium enterprises in the country. And then we also, in collaboration with BOI, Nexim Bank, we are establishing what we call Small and Medium Enterprises Rating Agency of Nigeria. The essence of this rating agency is to rate the small and medium businesses, and by rating them, it will make it easier for financial institutions to give them financial, to give them access to credit, because they have already been rated, they have reached a certain stage. And as at today, the CBN is establishing collateral registry, which makes it easier to use movable assets. You can use movable assets to access funding. And these are the things that a small business doesn't require to have C of O in order for him to access funding. These are some of the areas that the government is doing much about. And I think with these interventions, there will be much more access to funding than it used to be before.
Please, with this land thing, I'd like to say the point there. For the small and micro starters, they don't need money to access land. For example, there are a lot of people who have land, whose the fear of being the land being encroached on. If those individuals can approach those people and say, look, let me farm on your land. Whatever I make on that land, I'll give you 20%. Or I'll bring some of the products to you. If I plant corn, I'll give you some of the products when I harvest. They will give you the farm to use, the land to use. The land we are talking about, it is not the land we are talking about, Land Use Act and all that. That is not where the primary users get their land, because they can't afford buying land. They don't need to buy land, because in every community there are people who don't farm on their lands. The lands are fallow, and if they don't put something on it, somebody can encroach on the land. So they can actually get somebody to give them land to use and promise the person 20% of the proceeds. The things that you need to buy to plant those things. If you look for aunties and all that, you go to them and beg monies to do all sort of things. Tell them to give you 20,000 naira. That when you harvest in 3 months' time, maize, for instance, 20,000 will do a lot in farming maize. Tell them when I harvest, I will give you 40,000 naira for the 20,000 you give to me. If you are bold enough to approach that person, and they know you are serious-minded because you are in the community, they know you, somebody will probably give you that 20,000 naira to start the business. The micro starters. Where we have problem is people who are not doing anything at all. The ones who stay at home and say, I don't have education. So because I don't have education, I don't think I can survive.
In terms of the skills acquisition for artisans, for instance, and who go through the process of being apprentices and all that, how do you incorporate that as to have, a proper system where even those people can be certificated?
Get government to institute a system in the local councils where they will have local councils, people that will do certification. Get a certification such that if you have an artisan that has not gone through the program, you will not have a code. When you have a code and you do something that is not right, they report it to the local council. In that local council, they strike your name and seize your code and cancel it. You can't get jobs anymore. Once you make it statutory, people will of necessity start going to that program to learn how to actually get that certificate so they can survive. And if you get them on, you have a situation where people will start learning before going out to say, I know how to do this. And not go there and scuttle and do things that they're not supposed to do. The other thing I must also tell you is that the internet is the place to be today. Do you know that Uber, a transport company, today is operating in Nigeria? It has solved the problem of security and kidnapping with people who carry people in the cars and they disappear with them. There is a system now, because you put your card, your debit card in the system. The man who has Uber just created a platform on the internet. Today, he has over 1,000 fleet of cars. He did not buy any of those cars. He did not pay. He doesn't pay salaries to drivers. He does not see the mechanic. But he makes money from every transport that goes through that thing. It's an initiative by one individual, probably one young boy who has gone into the school of internet and knows how to use the internet to solve problems. If we train our people well to understand how to use the internet, in fact, if you go to China, the level of internet education that they are giving will tell you that the world is moving forward to something else. The Igbo man can start a business without 1 naira in his pocket, open a shop without 1 naira in his pocket. But the shop today will have a lot of overheads and all that. Today, you can actually be a salesman on the internet and have more traffic than the man that has a shop at home with all the overheads. And you can start a business on the internet without 1 naira in your pocket.
All right.
I think first of all we should talk about connectivity.
Right.
Yeah, at least 30 to 40% of this country we don't have the internet, but we have people living there who actually want to work, who would like to be supported. So I think maybe these presumptions, we should bear that in mind, because there's that category of Nigerian who we should not leave behind. And so some of the things that are being done is trying to see how we can expand and enlarge the network, how we can get solar lights and energy into those places, because really they are as Nigerian as we are, you know. And the challenge we have with many of our youth, I agree, is that many of them have an attitude of entitlement or maybe expectation. Somebody must do something for them, you know, and we need to change that mindset without a doubt. But we also have very hardworking people who want some money, and I mean who need very little and the opportunity to be able to grow. Another initiative I'm aware of is many of the governors were given targets, especially in agriculture. 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 in your state to come up. Just tell the federal government what your issues are. For many of them, it's the land, not the ownership of the land, it's the terrain, how to clear the thick forest that does not allow them to grow, you know. So government is trying to address that. For many of the, and I must say, what made me smile when he was talking is that we see certain vocations that are just for women, you know, and we allocate to them the bead making and the soap making. And then when we're talking about the men, we say, oh, bricklaying and, and mechanics. I think there's a lot that both sides can do. We have a lot of men that are baking cakes today and doing, you know, creating a lot of innovation in that space. And we have women mechanics that are doing very well.
Right.
Yes, so I think even the mindset that there's a certain vocation for a woman and a certain vocation for a man.
It's all cultural, because you wouldn't expect to see a woman bricklayer, for instance.
Yeah, no. Why not? You see, Mr. Cyril,
yes.
One added advantage we have, I'm telling you, all over the Federation, NDE, they have land that has been there for over 20, 30 years. And in some states, we have more than 90 hectares of land. We came up with a program called Green Cash for Nigerian Youth. Here, because of the success story in KB as far as Anchor Borrower is concerned, we are trying to borrow from that model. But this time, we are targeting economic trees.
Okay.
Economic trees. We have gone far on that. We're trying to, there are about 16 agri-research institutes in this country. We got across to some of them. We're trying to see what we can do within shortest possible time.
Okay. So those are going to be on economic trees. And
our target is economic trees. Economic trees.
Well, we have looked at so many of the ways of enhancing employment and reducing poverty. But just before we begin to wind down, I am also I'm still interested in the question of the education system. And it said that, well, we have relied so much on a system where people come out and they can't fend for themselves. And even when you go to the middle level and they have no skills whatsoever, they can't put together a plan. Now, you have been talking about so many ways of coming up with ideas. You do have so many people who cannot generate these ideas, or they have the ideas, they cannot put it together to make sense.
Correct. The truth about it is education, basic wealth education. The system, you have an engineer, he doesn't know what business is all about. You have a doctor, he doesn't know what business is all about. He graduates and comes out. Look at the lawyer that I used as example just now. The lawyers out there will be upset with me that I'm using the lawyers as example. But the lawyer comes out and what he knows is a professional, he's supposed to earn 5%, 10%. I'm a businessman. And I'm looking at the lawyer and I say, I can use this lawyer to make more money. Because I can reduce what you pay lawyers and reduce it to 20,000 for each agreement and employ a lawyer in my office and pay the lawyer 100,000. But the lawyer will be out there looking for a job that will pay him 100,000 naira. Instead of reducing the cost of doing agreements and make more money. So we have the education system is churning out graduates that don't translate what they qualify to do business. If we solve the problem of basic wealth education in Nigeria and the orientation I'm talking about, unemployment will reduce by over 20% immediately. Just putting the structures in place for universities to start teaching basic wealth education and get government agencies to create the enabling environment for donor agencies to come and use those monies to increase the level of intervention. Then the intervention that the federal government should do should be holistic. Things that can bring large intervention that can take care of millions of unemployed. Not 100,000, not 200,000. Because 200,000 is a scratch in the surface of what we have in now. That's why people don't feel the impact of what government is doing. But government is doing a lot. There are a lot of agencies that government is using to intervene currently. Let them spend 20% of the money, pay us, and create the enabling environment to do basic wealth education.
You don't need money.
Let me learn. Pay basic wealth and create basic wealth education and take it out. Politicians can actually engage educators who will go around to educate the electorate on how they can empower them instead of telling them lies that they don't do. Banks can actually intervene by teaching people that are not jobless, people that are looking for jobs, people that are doing businesses, on how they can improve their businesses. If you give that education as a banker, you attract a lot of customers to you. The schools can create the enabling environment. A lot can be done through the schools, but let government intervene with the business environment, making business easy to do, power, and also create the enabling environment to put institutions that can create vocational programs. Let the universities create vocational. 30% of the university facilities should be converted into vocational schools. Let people feel good that they are artisans because they have a certificate, because they can also go and do matriculation. Do you know that graduates in Nigeria today, some of them earn 30,000 naira a month? One of them came to my office and I asked him, how much do you earn? He said she's a marketer and she earns 30,000 naira a month. I said divide that 30,000 naira by 30 days so I will know how much you earn every month, every day. It translates to 1,000 naira a day. And I asked this young lady, how much do you pay on transport to and fro to the work that you go to? He said 600 naira. I said, how much do you eat during the break time every day? He said 500 naira. I said, how much do you spend on the average on your airtime? He said 200. And I asked her, what is your take home? 90% of people that are in employment today, they earn salaries that don't take them home in 2 weeks. And we are talking about unemployment. And money flows in the streets of Nigeria. Nigerians are not picking because they are not enlightened to see it. We have people that are educated but cannot apply the education. So what we need to do in Nigeria to significantly reduce poverty and unemployment is to give basic wealth education that can expose them to how they can start business with little or nothing and take out all those fears that they have about, I don't have education, I don't have employment, I don't have money to start business, I don't have manpower, I don't have what to do, I don't have connection. All those inhibitions that hold a lot of people, that make a lot of people sit down in their houses, let us take them out with teaching them how to take care of all those issues.
Well, while we're on this, perhaps it might be appropriate at this time to ask you to give us an update on particularly the scheme. Well, this has is generated so much controversy. The cooks you earlier talked about, the number of states where some states decided to put a hold on that.
Yes.
Some have restarted, and meanwhile the advocacy is still going on for the states to buy in and take possession.
Yes. You know, we're working against a culture, as I always say, so it's a process. What we tried to do was to circumvent the usual culprits by paying directly. We made sure that every cook opened an account and we pay to her directly. We sit down with the state produces a menu of affordable, accessible produce or food that is there. And where the governor is able, or the government is able to negotiate down huge bulk items like butchers, meat, or fisheries, or eggs, the governor writes a letter, signs to us that there's an account number of this amount, 28 naira per egg for the 70 naira, that will go directly to that account, and the balance will go to the cook. But what we're finding is that there's some very smart or clever people that go to the banks at the state level to move money from the accounts of the cooks, taking advantage of the level of their education and illiteracy, and moving money, and the banks too are listening against all the ethics and, you know, saying, oh, this is their mandate and there's a thumbprint. How do they know it's the thumbprint of the cook? Move certain amount of money from the account to a school feeding account. So what we've done really is to engage the security agencies, and the EFCC is supporting us, the DSS is supporting us. We're trying to get these stories out, and we're going to name and shame, because it's not fair that we're trying to empower rural women. We're trying to feed children 1 nutritious meal a day, and people that are in the system are still trying to find ways of taking money away from these cooks, thereby shortchanging the program. But this is not to say that it's not working in some areas. In some places it's working very well. In some states, the traditional institutions are helping us monitor to ensure the faith-based organizations are making sure that yes, the menu we agreed is being fed to the children. But it's a process.
Well, one of our callers did suggest that you employ the Mayangwa, traditional institutions.
Yes. So I actually have done so through the emirs, and then they are now cascading it down. I have done so. So it's something I picked up from here. Thank you.
All right. Well, so many issues to look at in terms of job creation, reduction of poverty. But as I always say, no one program can take care of it all. So we'll have to leave this conversation at this point in time, and thank our guests for affording us their time and knowledge on these matters. So we'd like to say a big thank you to Mrs. Mariam Uwais, Special Advisor to the President on Social Intervention Programs. We thank you for always being there for us every time we've asked you to come.
You're helping us actually by publicizing our efforts and enabling others to actually give us the feedback that we require to improve.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. So we also say thank you to Dr. Nasser Ladan Mohammed Agungu, Director General, National Directorate of Employment, ND. We thank you.
Thank you very much.
And a big thank you to Dr. Dikko Umaru Rada, who is Director General, CEO of SMEDAN, Small Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. And for Francis Daniel Ukumagba, the Wealth Creation Advisor, I know that many people who have listened to you today will be trying to get a hold on on some of the ideas that you have put out here today, and I must say, I'm considering a few of them myself too. But yeah, the sugarcane thing, and we might get some sweetness out of that.
And Francis,
right?
You know that most of the polytechnics and the universities, they have state-of-the-art vocational centers created by TED Fund. You need to check on that. They have them. I'm telling you, the equipments are there. State-of-the-art equipment.
It is not showing. It's not showing yet in the number of graduates that are showing out.
Well, I may be just the change in the policy, but I'm telling you, they are there.
All right. So, Francis, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And also thank you to you for being part of the program. Next week, we'll reach you again on NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Bye for now.